Welcome to Philly Coco presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 51. This is the developer's journey to making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro, and we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Cocoa Heads community focused on Apple development that primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS development. Philly Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Ooh, all right. Well, I hate to say it, but today is another one of those solo podcasts. And if you're wondering why, well, I'm basically a masochist. So I guess we can kind of get with the basic updates. As of this week, iOS 17 has just been released. And then, as well as, because of that, Xcode 15 release candidate is also out. So that's great because now we can have all the fun toys. We don't have to do the whole beta cycle. Never mind. If you want to do visionOS development, if you want to continue to do that, you want to keep the Xcode 15 beta 8 and up, I assume, going forward. You want to keep that around along with your Xcode 15 release candidate, which of course is the final release. Just keep that in mind if you intend to do visionOS development. Also, new iPhones are coming out. One interesting note there, aside from the new awesome A17 chip, dynamic island across the board for all the new iPhones, from the iPhone to the iPhone Pros. So if you are interested in doing some development with dynamic island, this might be a good time to jump on board. So with that, on to our topic of today. I got to sort of thinking about how much hype we're kind of going through currently. It's the generative AI, and last year being crypto, and then the year before that being AR, VR. And I kept thinking to myself, for each of these hype cycles, particularly with generative AI, I couldn't figure out why I was not more quote unquote hyped about it. I mean, sure, using a ChatGPT APIs to sort of create your own chatbot and then customize it and refine it to do specific tasks is kind of interesting. Building your own models is kind of fun. But I felt like there wasn't, I just kept coming up with bad ideas. I just kept thinking like, there's a cool application for something here, but, very similar to like how I felt about blockchain, it all led to sort of these really ridiculously horrible concepts of like, even with the AR, VR stuff, it's like, I can imagine a scenario where, and particularly with the visionOS, we're going to get ads, billboards everywhere, the worst variety. I can already picture it in my mind. Thanks, Aaron, for bringing that in my head. And I kept thinking, this is just like, like really bad. This is really bad. And that I kept thinking only of bad ideas. Normally I could think of like, and not in the bad idea in the sense of like, they're funny, bad, haha, but more like bad as like if they're so bad, they're kind of good for business, sort of speak. So in that sense, it got me wondering, what is it that I'm not, what am I not caring about? What is my concern? And I think a lot of it comes down to, there's this thing, this term moat, right? Where you're trying to sort of investor terminology, where you're trying to like create this sort of barrier of making it hard for people to sort of copy that work. One of the things that's like Stable Diffusion that's kind of funny is that they talk about in the beginning the hype was, we're going to democratize art, we're going to make it easy for every person to make art using Stable Diffusion or Midjourney. And while that is true, it also said, well, just because now it's easier means that it's also easier. Just because it's easier for you also makes it easier for everyone else. So there's really nothing, it becomes less special, it becomes less meaningful, only useful in certain contexts where you kind of could use it in a pinch, but ultimately devalued in the sense of how you can create a product around it, right? So the basically in a roundabout way, it got me wondering, like, what is a secret sauce of an app that you love, right? Like, I can think of a few handful of applications in my time that I've enjoyed using a lot. I think one of the ones that really come to mind offhand is an app called Modo, which was originally a 3D modeler, allowing you to build and create 3D models, texture it, sculpt it, and animate it if you wanted to. Well, rig it and then animate it if you wanted to. And it was one of the few apps I remember thinking, oh, I love being in this app every day. I love being in this app. I felt the same way about Sound Studio, which I felt was just fast, quick, piffy. I could just slice and dice audio all day long, copy paste movement into a track. It just felt so nice. Sketch, when I first started using it, it felt like a lightweight version of Illustrator, which gravitated to me at the beginning because Illustrator was just kind of like Photoshop for vector art at the time, and it was great, but it was also very, the tools were all available to you, so it was hard to really define when one tool was more useful than the other. Sketch just got rid of majority of that and just said, hey, you know what, these are the tools you need, these are the shapes you need, and then you can slice and dice, and the same way. And then also, once you've got a handle of the key commands, which are not that hard to learn in the first place, it just made it way easier. And also, another one that comes to mind, that I think about it, is Procreate, which is a very popular drawing app for the iPad, and by extension, Procreate Pocket, which is a lightweight version of it, which kind of allows you to create digital art in a very naturalistic sort of way. It came out just around the time that the pencil had come out for the iPad, which really changed the way I viewed the iPad as sort of like, oh, this is now, people would say, oh, it's a very expensive iPhone. And I was like, this is a very cheap Wacom tablet, a 12-inch, in this case, 11-inch or 10-inch kind of dimensions. I thought this application was amazing, and I used it constantly. So, and I kept thinking, like, there is so much of these apps that do a lot of getting out of the creator's way and just allows the creator to sort of express themselves naturalistically in that environment, whether it be for art, video, music, you name it. Like, that's part of the reason why I get so flustered when I use an app like Figma, which just hangs at the most critical time. I know it's great for collaborations, but it also encourages bad behavior in terms of like overloading a screen or page with tons of wireframes, or Jira, which is a constant scorn of this particular podcast, but it's just designed in a way that's sort of trying to be everything for everybody and yet not doing one thing really well. And I think if there's anything that I really enjoyed about Modo, going back to the original app, is that it did the, 3D, doing 3D is hard. It is painfully hard. But what made it a joy was just a simple thing of double tapping an edge or polygon, and it just completely would highlight all the connected geometry next to it that it could, making it easier for you to manipulate that geometry or that object. And I thought, like, that little thing or the cut and pasting in Sound Studio, those little things that it did exceptionally well. And I'm always sort of grateful for those app developers who stayed on the mission of building an app that allowed the artist to self-express without having to sort of remember, a bunch of clicks to get something done. So I think one of the things that I sort of want to make sure I keep focus on as a sort of rule of thumb is when I build an app or when I build a product, I'm always, at least for my own projects, I'm always focused on who my user is, not necessarily who, in the sense of the, not in the sense of like users like in a broad sense, but in the people who are really committed to the craft of what they're doing, whether it be animation, music videos, art, whatever. I just want to be able to really build something that has that as the secret sauce versus, I don't know, something where you're so focused on the moat, of like creating this custom core ML model that nobody can break. You almost lose the feeling of an app that makes it the reason why people would ever use the app. Also, speed. Every one of these apps, by the way, performs exceptionally well, and speed is a feature. Just want to keep reminding everybody of that, because sometimes I think we just care too much about making sure it's quote unquote cross-platform and available to everybody. Sometimes you gotta niche to rich, as they say. And maybe I'm just being selfish in that sense, but I think sometimes to start, you want to keep that focus on the user, and that I feel like is my sort of like rambling thoughts around the secret sauce of an app. Well, that's all we have for today. You can learn more about Philly Cocoa at phillycocoa.org. There you'll find our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is. And please share us with all your developer friends. And one more thing, stop scrolling, start cooking. That is the tagline of our not a sponsor spotlight of the day. This is ClipDish at getclipdish.com. ClipDish is a recipe app that makes it easier than ever to save recipes you discover online. So you just find a recipe on a website, then you can clip it, removing all the externalities of the website where you have to go and traverse through all these banner ads, and you can just get the core content, which is the ingredients and the instructions. It allows you to save it on device and sync it between your iPhone and your iPad. Again, that's getclipdish.com by AppJohn LLC, made in Bucks County, PA, with love. You can get the app at getclipdish.com. Till next time, good luck on your own developer journey. We will cheer for you always. I'm basically a masochist.